Hello SEO Startups and welcome to this week's video. This week we're doing another Ask Me Anything, so this is number 8 in the series. We've got 4 more questions that members of the group have kindly posted on our Google spreadsheet, which is awesome. At the end of this we won't have any more questions, so if you guys could add some more questions to the sheet, that would be awesome. And any SEO questions you've got at all, post them, and then just like we do in these formats, we'll answer them, usually 4 at a time.
Yeah, we'll pop them in the comments box below, the link to the actual spreadsheet. So
on Facebook?
Yes, on Facebook.
That's
and
right.
on YouTube and on Vimeo. We'll add them to all of them.
Oh, right, nice.
Yeah, let's branch out. Normal format. I'll ask Andy a question, he'll ask me one, we'll go through and answer it. And then, fire over more questions. We might do some other bits in the future around specific topics. So maybe if you don't have a specific question, or maybe you have and you need to know more about local SEO or something AMP pages, which comes up in the actual questions here. If you need to know something more specific, fire that over as well, and we could probably do a video around that.
Got it.
Awesome. So first one, I believe, is me asking Andy.
It is.
So this was posted by Ben Franklin, and it's around keyword optimization. So essentially, he's optimizing he's selling organic cotton bed linen. On an e-commerce store, and when he's doing searches in Google, he's searching for organic bedding, organic cotton bedding, but organic bedding is ranking higher than cotton bedding, organic cotton bedding. So he wants to know what he has to do if he has to kind of exact match organic cotton bedding, that sort of thing. Essentially, it was a longer question. We tried to shorten it.
So I think, basically he wants to understand if he wants to rank for both organic cotton bedding and organic bedding, does he have to put them both in the title? Does he have to put them both within his meta description, his H1? Actively optimize for both of those keywords. And really the answer to this one is, whenever you've got a question like this and you're unsure, is go to Google and just search for the keywords. So what you might find is that Google actually treats them both the same anyway. So I went to Google, google.co.uk, and I searched organic bedding, and of all the pages that came up, they were mentioning organic cotton bedding as much as they were mentioning organic bedding. So Google's seeing them as really related. And then I searched organic cotton bedding, and lots of the results mentioned organic cotton bedding, and a lot of them just said organic bedding. So Google's seeing those two types of products, or they're essentially the same, as the same. So it's providing each set of those users with the same results. So what you could really do is you could just optimize for a single keyword there, and it will pretty much cover both of them. Especially within like the meta title and the description. Within the content itself, maybe mix it up and use both phrase variations. One of the other questions you asked said is, if you go for organic cotton bedding, does that mean that you can rank for organic cotton and then also cotton bedding? And again, the answer for that is to go to Google. So I went to Google and I searched for organic cotton. And was it bringing up organic cotton bedding type websites? No, it wasn't. Google sees an organic cotton as something different, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
could be used for anything.
Yeah.
And cotton bedding as well. You search for cotton bedding, and it's not bringing back the same results as the keywords you want to go for. So you're not going to be able to rank for those 2 keywords by using that single phrase. So you'd have to create other pages if they are keywords you want to go for.
Yeah, I think one of the things is obviously Google's really good at understanding what users' intent is when they are searching for a keyword. So like Andy said, if you're searching for organic cotton, that could be pretty much anything. It doesn't necessarily relate directly to bedding, albeit that's one of the potential searches. As Andy said, go search Google. It's a great,
that's it. If you've got questions like that, just go search Google and what kind of results it's bringing. If it's bringing back the same results for your 2 variations, then you can kind of optimize for either. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so the next question for Kieran. So this was posted by Nelson. So for small businesses, I know what it takes. I'm guessing for SEO. But how to approach news websites. They often have very few pages, and they publish articles 30 to 50 times a day every day, and content become old and irrelevant. What are some good SEO tactics for these kinds of websites?
Awesome. So obviously when he mentions few pages, he's talking about, say, like static pages, so things like your home page, about, contact us. Obviously, albeit that they're pushing articles, they're still pages on the website, but it doesn't mean that within the actual question itself. As you mentioned, when you're publishing kind of content articles, news items, they are only relevant for a short period of time, and as you mentioned, they get irrelevant quite quickly. So what you need to try and do is make the most of the time that they are essentially relevant. And one of the biggest ways that you can do this is to try and get the website included in Google News. So Google News is essentially the news results within Google. You'll probably, if you do a search for a specific topic there may be kind of news happening around it at the minute, you'll see kind of a news preview box, normally 3 or 4 squares across the kind of search results. So with that, Google it needs you to basically complete a couple of tasks to be able to actually be included within Google News to then show up in that. You won't, if you're not included within Google News, you won't show up necessarily within these boxes.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to do is and this is probably the most important, the content itself needs to be unique and it needs to be newsworthy. So what you'll find is that if you're doing a high number of maybe promotional posts that are kind of evergreen and they're not specifically around certain news articles, and that potentially outweighs the number of actual newsworthy content pieces that you're doing.
Promotional.
The promotional content outweighs the newsworthy content. There's a good chance that you won't be included within Google News.
I think even if they find just some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're really strict.
Yeah. So essentially, you need to make sure that the content you're writing is newsworthy. Once you've your content itself is fine and you're okay within that area, then it comes onto the technical side of the website itself. So you can create what's called a Google News sitemap. So it's a sitemap that's specific for Google News articles, and it essentially gets rid of any articles that are over 2 days old. And essentially, what you're doing is you're only keeping the newest pieces of content actually in your sitemap, so that Google can always get a list of the kind of latest pieces of content. On how you actually do this, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. There's a couple of blog posts on kind of how to create news articles. If your news website is actually built in WordPress, then you're in luck, because Yoast have a really good kind of news plugin for, like a news SEO plugin for your website, which will create your Google News sitemap, and I believe it does a lot around AMP, which I'll come on to next. So once you've got your news sitemap and your content itself is unique, it's newsworthy, then you need to create an AMP version of your website. So AMP is essentially accelerated mobile page. And what that basically means is that the website, it's almost like a stripped down version of your website that you can view on a mobile phone. So you essentially get rid of all the bloated kind of navigation, all the potential kind of sidebar advertisements, all that sort of stuff. You shrink it down so that essentially when someone lands onto your website, they can see just the content of that news article. So AMP is great for speed. So if someone does a search, they see a news result, what you'll normally find within Google search tools, you'll click on that news result and it will just load it in it won't actually go right through to your website, it will load the AMP page of your site instead. Facebook use this a lot as well. And they just really help with people being able to get access to that piece of content as quickly as possible. So ensuring that you've got AMP versions of these articles as well is really important. Again, there's a lot of posts around how to do that, and if you use the Yoast plugin, I'm not 100% sure if the news plugin includes AMP, because I know that they have a separate AMP plugin as well. So it may be that you need the two.
Both for free.
Yeah, both for free anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, get AMP set up, get the news sitemap set up, and then the last thing is making sure that your site loads fast, and AMP obviously massively help with this anyway, but yeah, just ensuring that the hosting is all set up correctly, you've compressed all your images, that sort of stuff. We've done some bits on improving page speed in previous videos, so yeah, have a look back through them. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.
I think probably one of the things that you can do is try to create evergreen category pages. So if you're going to create a lot of news content around a specific category, you know, whether it's SEO news, right, for example, and you know that they're going to be out of date, so they're not always going to drive traffic because they're kind of relevant to a point in time, then create a really good optimized landing page where you post all of those articles. Then if someone searches a generic term like the latest SEO news, then your page is going to come up top. Even if it has got content that's outdated now, it was relevant at the time, and you've always got fresh content on there, so they could perform really well from an SEO point of view and help get you to rank for those evergreen keywords.
Yeah, it's essentially like a category page on an e-commerce shop.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the next question was sent in by Chad. Given that Google's natural language processor categorises content, would it be good, and you've given a link to the actual categories that Google uses, would it be a good idea to use those categories when you're siloing your content on your website?
Yeah, so just to give some context around this, there's a Google tool And it's a newly released one. We have mentioned it before.
Yeah.
And essentially what you can do is you can put in a block of text, of content, and what it will do then is it will tell you lots of information about how Google's interpreted that text, such as what are the content topics or what we call entities that it's pulled out, what's the salient score of them, how relevant are they, what's their correlation. One of the other things that it does tell you is what categories it thinks that content should be placed within. So what Chad's saying here is, should we use those categories that it thinks it should be placed within to determine then your category structure on your website? And I'd probably say no, because actually using that tool, it doesn't really provide you with the categories that you might want to use from an SEO point of view. So I put through a photography website recently. I put through a piece of content, was on one of their landing pages. And the categories it brought back were their business type, so it mentioned category of being photography, another category of being a digital service, and another category being a business service. Now, you won't want those to be your categories on your website, because that's not providing any value at all. It's just how Google is categorizing that content. So yeah, at the moment, don't use it for that. Really, what you should be looking is more around keyword research to determine your categories and your services. So, for example, for this photography site, the categories for them should be categories like portrait photography, outdoor photography, family photography.
Yeah.
And do some good keyword research, and that will help you determine your category structure.
Yeah, I'd say that the Google natural language categories, there's not really that many as well to kind of really be able to refine your categories down. So
yeah, it's very generic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay, so the final question, which is again was posted by Chad. Thanks, Chad. When should articles be merged to avoid keyword cannibalization?
It's a tricky question because there's not really a specific answer, because it does depend on the actual kind of use case. What we would say is initially, do they actually need to be merged? Essentially, are you creating additional work that you potentially are not going to gain that much benefit from? The main reason being that if you're starting to combine multiple posts, multiple articles into a single article, you're then starting to limit the number of different keywords that you can optimize for. So obviously, namely the reason that you're doing this is going to be around kind of, you've got keywords that are quite similar, and that's why you want to build into one post. However, we normally advise 2 to 3 keywords as a maximum per page when you're optimizing. So if you are merging multiple pieces of content into a single content piece, and that's is assuming that that's the case, it may be that you're wanting to kind of redirect other pieces, which again comes into a different question. But if you're merging multiple pieces of content into a single content piece, you're going to be limiting the number of keywords that you can target on that piece. And also, we said that there's another way you can obviously redirect these. So if you've got 2 articles that are quite closely linked in terms of what they're talking about, and you redirect one to the other, you're then losing any of the authority, part of the authority that you've gained on that piece that you've done before, but then also the content that's within there. Because if it's not exactly the same, there may be pieces of content that you could use across on the other piece as well. So really try to weigh up whether it's actually beneficial to merge that content. Are your rankings actually fluctuating? So the reason that we normally advise to merge content, or you see keyword cannibalization, is based on rankings. So if you've got a keyword that you think's being targeted across both pieces of content, have a look at the rankings over a period of time and see if the page that's ranking is changing. If it's not changing, Google's probably already made up its mind as to what piece of content is most relevant for that keyword. And then the last thing that I'd say as well is, when you're merging the keywords and merging the content itself, have a look to see if there's anything you can do to improve the content before you decide to actually merge it. So if you're not seeing great performance for keywords, have a look to see if you can add more content in, or more videos, more internal links, and get more engagement for that post that's not performing that well. It may be the case that actually the similarities between the 2 pieces isn't actually causing that issue at all. Yeah, as I say, it's a bit of a tricky one because we don't know the specific use case, but
there are certain use cases where you would look to do it.
Definitely so.
If you really, the content is very similar between the 2 pieces, maybe with just a slight different focus, and you don't want to rewrite one of them, then to clean up your site, do a bit of a content audit, it might be worth just combining, taking the best from both, adding it into a single one, and then redirecting. But I do that as a last resort, and that's only really if the content is very, very similar.
Yeah. Agreed. Awesome.
Cool. That's it then.
Yeah. So we'll be back for another video next week.
Yep.
And yeah, chuck all of your questions in the spreadsheet that's underneath this video. on whichever medium you're using to watch it. And then, drop any comments in there as well and give us any feedback.
Yeah, and we're away for a slightly longer weekend for the Easter break.
We are.
So yeah, we'll be back around Tuesday next week.
Yes. Awesome.
Good stuff.
Cheers,
Thanks, guys.